Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to Channel 17. And tonight we're calling this Awakening Interviews. It's going to be the first in our collaboration series where we bring in other people from the community, both in this community and in the movement as a whole, to collaborate and help bring you guys the truth as we know it, and help to frankly decipher everything that's going on in this crazy world around us. So my name is Dave. With me as always, my co-host, Mark. Mark, how are you doing tonight, my friend?
I'm doing great, kiddo. How about you?
Trying to keep my head above water, man. It's we were just on the air last night, and it's another day in Crazy Town. This is not a current event show, but I think we'd be remiss if we didn't touch for a second on where we are. And I know our special guest tonight, Theresa Griffith, is going to be with us in a minute, of Tressy Trek podcast, a wonderful soul who's got a fantastic role in this whole operation and a great perspective on everything going on. And, we were all just talking about it backstage. You can just see, and I think that we sometimes have to step back and do this, right? Because we've all gotten so used to such a level of crazy that as it continues to ramp up day to day, I think sometimes many of us get frustrated maybe with the lack of pace and other things. And people make that famous saying of, nothing's happening. And yet sometimes you got to not look back at what happened yesterday. You got to look back at the way things were, let's say 3 months ago, right? And look at how much the news cycle has ramped up over the last 3 months. And just this week alone, you have, Supreme Court cases involving Trump. You have last night, major news, which we all knew breaking, but you have the mainstream media across the board reporting on the fact that it's now confirmed, which we all have known, that the CIA coordinated the entire Russiagate hoax. Everything from the Steele dossier to the handoff with the investigation in to the FBI. And interestingly enough, which we'll talk about more on Friday, Mark, what was the key thing of this? Five Eyes. The Five Eyes Intelligence Alliance. What is in the Q drops? Five Eyes, Brennan, Clapper. So it's an interesting that you have Vladimir Putin coming in last week, giving an interview where he completely dismantled the FBI, basically blamed them on everything that's happening in the United States, in Ukraine, in Europe, told the world that they control the United States president. At the 17-second mark, dropped his watch on the table next to a pen, mirrored a Q drop. This past Monday, we get Catherine Herridge being fired from CBS, also in the Q drops, under a Q drop that says "follow the pen," with the same picture as what Putin did on the table. And then here we are on Wednesday, and last night we get a release from, Matt Taibbi and Jesse Waters to the world that, by the way, on top of everything else, here's the CIA that created the whole Russia hoax. And people still try to question that this whole thing is coordinated. They question. They have they want to say nothing's happening and this isn't a white hat operation. We don't see the level of coordination across all these different people to bring this message to the world. You have the impeachment, I say, of Alejandro Mayorkas last night after failing in the House. Now it passes. It goes to the Senate where it's likely to fail again because of exposure. So, and of course, not the least of which, we just had a shooting today, multiple mass shootings, one at the parade for the Super Bowl champions and another at a school. I posted my Telegram channel. We won't get into it here. We'll talk about it more on Friday. I encourage everybody to watch that video. The same video that everyone's freaking out about now as being breaking news. Right at the 24-second mark, you see 5, 6, 7 military personnel in fatigues with automatic weapons and the FBI running into the building. Why is the military there? Yeah, you can Google it and they're going to say it was the National Guard was honoring them, but why are they there with guns? Why are they first on the scene? To start looking, we got to really start looking between the lines and see that they're just ramping this up from every single angle to get people to pay attention. And we're just teetering on every angle, from financial to geopolitical to local, social, of something about to snap.
And don't forget MTG.
Yeah, I mean, you have everything. It's, you have her with the gavel today. Look, it's a giant show. I know everyone's sick of it, but realistically, again, we're here tonight to hopefully continue the message of what we've been trying to deliver to everybody on this platform, which is one of unity, peace, reading between the lines of what's going on, focusing on not biting into what's happening in the world. And when I say the world, I mean also within the bounds of this movement, these different channels that we all operate in, because it's crazy town out there right now, and we've spoken about it a lot. For the people that don't understand, or maybe are not considering the fact that if you're going to run a psychological operation, I said this the other night, but it has to be repeated. If you're going to run a psychological operation, you're going to wake up the world. You're going to go as far as to install essentially an entire fake government, take over the media, have people in masks, have different headlines with codes in them, have all these different operations going on. And you don't think that they would just that if you and then you think that they wouldn't pay any attention to what we're doing over here and teach all of us lessons as well through manipulation. And at the same time, potentially by the white hats doing things, there's still low level black hat people that want to infiltrate these groups and manipulate what we're doing. If you don't think that's possible, then you're not grasping the larger scope of what's going on. And that's important. And that's why you see so many people getting involved in these chats and moderation and telling people just to try to take it easy and not jump to conclusions, because I could go in any chat right now and join a chat and go in there and say, this is terrible. The white hats aren't doing anything. They're getting us. And it's going to immediately cause division. It's the same playbook every time. There are people trying to mess with your head. I don't like it any more than you do. I'm in this the same way all of you are, but you have to, if you want to get through the rest of this, you have to just understand what we're dealing with. And not the least of which is the message, Mark, that we say all the time. We don't know what we don't know. So
Nor do we know when anything's going to happen or anything else. When it happens, it happens. But the one thing on a brighter note, a happier note, that I have to say is on Respect, on the news show, on the show you did last night, and on the chat. I have to say I'm really, really proud of our viewers, our participants in the chat and everything else, because you've really kept everything on a very, very peaceful, respectful, upbeat tone, unlike a lot of the other chats. And, there's no backstabbing or biting or anything else. Everybody's being really, really good patriots, and they're really leaning toward the direction that we should be going in. And I'm really proud of that.
I agree. So on that note, guys, I'm about to bring in our guest. And this is a woman who has been in this entire movement, operation, awakening, far longer than myself. And she's somebody that I recently discovered when she came on a Rumble, and she kind of came into, my purvey. And it's somebody that resonated with me right away. She's somebody that came in, spoke honestly, spoke in a very calming, level, grounded way. And to me is one of the perfect people to be delivering the message that we all need right now, which is separate of the deep intel, separate of the news, separate of the chaos, more on the humanitarian side of everything going on, and somebody that is deeply concerned about not only the people of the world, but the people that are in this movement, in this operation, trying to help to make it happen. And um, as I try to tell people all the time, just because I'm sitting in front of a camera and a microphone doesn't mean that I don't have my days, weeks as well, where I'm going through it. And she's somebody that I've been listening to myself, that when I want a positive message and I want to break from the hard intel and everything else, that I can listen to somebody that I know is speaking to me as if I'm sitting in the room with her, and somebody that's on the same uh, playing field of understanding, of being awakened, and seeing where we need to go moving forward. And it's also, Mark, I know somebody that has you've and your wife as well have had involvement with, you've dealt with, and I was honored to be a part of her podcast, Tressy Trek, which is on Rumble. We're going to have that link in the description in the chat box here, and I'll put it up on the screen. She's on Rumble multiple nights a week. I highly encourage everybody that's just tired of the show, tired of the same old stuff. If you're looking for somebody that's got a positive, grounded message, by all means, please check it out. And so I'm going to bring her in now from the Tressy Trek podcast, Theresa Griffith. Theresa, how are you tonight, my friend?
Good. How are you?
I'm good.
Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here with two of my favorite people.
Somebody else coming?
So Theresa, could you just do a quick, Cliff Notes introduction for the people that don't know you, kind of who you are, how you ended up where you are today doing these podcasts, bringing this message to the world. Because I know you have an incredible backstory that people can see over on your channel, but tell people a little bit how you got here to where you are today and why you're doing this.
Well, it's really a long backstory, so I'll try to make it a summary if I can. But I started out being abused from day one. And almost died 3 times. I've been through more trauma than you could imagine. It's been my entire life full of trauma, and that's usually the sign of a leader. When if you have that story too, it means you have a position of leadership in this movement and in the next phase of our lives. And you may not know how that's going to happen, but you don't have to, because you'll bump into it. And so I was known all over the world. I did concerts because I found my way through the wilderness. I found my way through the pain. I figured out how to deal with the horror of my life and come through the other side with no bitterness, no unforgiveness, no grudges, even. I love everyone, and I would immediately let them back into my life with a big hug if they even made a step towards me. And so, because I learned how to overcome adversity, then I was able to teach it. I was able to help other people, and it made me so happy that I could make sense out of my suffering. And every drop of my suffering was used. It was training. It was training to help the world. And I had no idea it was going to be a time like this. I mean, I had a dream where God came to me in 2003 and said, there is coming a day of great upheaval in the world. And I'm going to use you as I used Shirley Temple to bring comfort and encouragement and hope to a world in chaos. And then, time went by. 2003, I was playing a concert, because I play 13 different flutes, just in case people don't know, and sing. I have 15 CD titles. And so I was a guest artist at this Christian movie producers conference. And after the concert, this movie producer's wife came up to me and said, God told me that there's coming a day of great upheaval in the world, and he's going to use you like he did Shirley Temple to comfort the hearts of the people in a time of chaos. And I was like, oh, really? It's like she said it word for word, exactly like he did. And then as I went all over the world, people gave me prophetic messages saying, you are an Esther, you are a Joseph, you will literally feed the people, you will provide sustenance for the people. And here we've created Tressara. And I didn't even realize it was a fulfillment of that Joseph prophecy until afterwards. And I went, oh my gosh, it's in action right now. And then I worked with Kim Clement, and now people are sending me his prophecy about Esther saying, we think this is you. And so then I was contacted by the White Hats, the Alliance, and I'm kind of like enlisted in this very thing that I'm talking about. And so we are literally saving people's homes and people from being evicted. We're saving their cars, their belongings, and on it goes. And more donations are rolling in so that we can do more. And it's just so exciting to me. It's like, now I get it, why I went through what I did in my life. And I don't regret anything. And I'm a speaker. I enjoy speaking, and I've been speaking on social media, but mostly Facebook for, I'm thinking, more than 10 years. And Facebook was my thing, even though we don't really like it. It's comfortable. There's not all these people out there that want to take you down. It's not cutthroat at all. It's just sweet people. And then somebody threw me out into viral land, and the rest is history. So these people that say, well, we don't know who she is, and she's a newbie on the block. And I'm going, son, I could be your grandmother. All right. Yeah. I've been around the block. I got the stars to prove it. So cut with the crap, So, yeah.
I think that's actually a really important point, Theresa, because, rightfully so, there's a lot of people right now in the movement, in the truth movement as a larger, as a whole, that are just, they're tired, they're sad, some of them are bitter, some are angry. Most are incredibly suspicious. And it's something I've dealt with. Many people I know, guys like SG and On, all these, it. And what I wanted to, I'm glad you brought up how long you've been doing this, because that's what I said in the intro. I know you've been doing this for like well over a decade. You didn't just come out here yesterday. Yeah. Even me, although I have been podcasting only since July, my platform I built almost, like 3+ years ago at this point. I didn't start yesterday. And that kind of segues well into my next topic, which is talk a little bit about, we discussed this the other night, about discernment and how on both ends, if somebody's saying something really amazing or somebody's saying something really negative, either way, to not pull yourself too far into one camp because of just what I said in the open. There's things we don't know. And to me, that short-sightedness of, well, she just popped up on Rumble in November, or he popped up here, and immediately that snap to judgment, right? Where, well, she hasn't been here. Where has she been? So rather than actually maybe taking the time to come into your community or onto a podcast and ask you to tell your story, or asking me or asking anybody else, like, there are millions and millions and millions of people behind the scenes working upon this on different things. People that you see on your television, people you might run into every day in your neighborhood that are involved with this that you don't know about, that they can't tell you, all different levels. So, we've been trying to hammer home this message of unity. And again, I think it's, we talked about this the other night, it's this kind of snap to judgment. Like I said, I understand where it's coming from, right? If I've been cheated on by the last 10 women that I dated, then yeah, the 11th one is going to have a harder time earning my trust. I understand it, but you do have to really step back, understand that there's different people operating in different places. It's a movement where it doesn't matter how much the media and people around us want to try to beat down the truth movement. Just look at numbers. Look at the numbers on the different things you watch. There's growing. So that's what they designed this to be. They wanted different people, like you helped inspire me before I started this platform. And there's somebody that helped inspire you, and somebody helped inspire Mark to do more. We have moderators in here that have never moderated before, but now they're volunteering to do it and that's how this whole operation works. Without different people coming in, they want if we have this snap to judgment, then we're just going to stay stagnant. And so we always say, not throwing out the baby with the bathwater on both ends. We don't know good and bad who's doing what. So by all means, take what the person is saying on the screen, digest it as that. If you want to do research onto the person, that's fine, but don't throw their message out just because they came onto Rumble yesterday. Just as well as you shouldn't believe their message because they've been on Rumble for 10 years. So talk about that a little bit more, the unity that we're looking for, and how we, there's so many things we just don't know exactly what's going on. You have to really use that discernment to stay grounded as far as what you're going to let your emotions follow or not follow.
Right. Well, people don't ask. They assume immediately, and they love believes the best. Love gives you the benefit of the doubt. You should be innocent until proven guilty, right? And doesn't President Trump and the movement even say there are sleepers? So if there's a sleeper and they come out when they're supposed to, are you going to throw darts at them before you give them a chance and just watch? Let's see, because doesn't it say by their fruits you shall know them? So what are the fruits? Go find out what the fruits are. Right now, did they ask me? Have I been running a relief organization for 45 years? 45 years as the president of a relief organization who has helped people all over the world. Right. And so, you got to understand that things are not necessarily bad just because you don't know the history. You just give it a chance. And I believe that your discernment is stored in your heart. And if you listen with your heart instead of your human reasoning and your history of pain and distrust, that's what we have to shed, because we're leaving the cabal where we couldn't trust anything. We're leaving that behind, so you can't take that distrust into the future, because it isn't going to be a world like that. It's going to be the best world that could ever be, because God is making it. He's the author of this new thing. And he doesn't do anything halfway, and he completes everything he starts. Yep. So we can't take the pain history into the future with us. It's over. All right?
But the point of trying to get past people's judgment zone and try and get past people's preconceived ideas and people's, rush to judgment. Like you said, we're innocent until proven guilty, but people immediately have their fixed ideas and they have their preconceived judgments before they ever give anybody a chance.
Right.
And that's one of the things that we've all been trying to get through to people and try to have them come from more of a point of understanding and a point of trust, a point of discussion. But how do you go about that? How do you get around that?
To me, you have to live by the law of love. You have to live by the law of love. And the law of love has quite a few things in the list if you read it. And the first one is love believes the best. Love gives everyone a chance. Right? But you got to feel it with your heart. Is your heart moved? Your spirit knows all truth. Your spirit is connected to God and it knows all truth. So if you listen to someone and your spirit goes, yes, But most people aren't used to listening to their heart. They're used to going by their head and their human reasoning. That's the matrix. And all this time we've had to wait has been a time that we could have been productive in learning how to change our minds to go a new direction, to live a new way. And that's what I've been preaching this whole time. We've got to reset ourselves before we can reset the world. Whatever you character flaws you have now, you will carry those into the new day and they will not serve you well. They will trip you.
I think that's such an important statement because I know I went through this stage early on when I started getting involved in all this stuff where I was spending so much time looking at everyone around me, and I still see a lot of that. And don't get me wrong, I don't like it. I don't like kind of being out on an island by myself, so to speak. But I've learned, at least to this point, to be a little bit more content with it because we're all looking, saying, my husband is asleep, my mother is asleep, my brother is asleep, whoever it is, focusing on everyone else around her, like waiting. We're looking to these people, and it seems like, well, if my coworkers would all just wake up, things would be better at work and I'd have a better life. And we're going to get to that point. But the point of this is not about us waiting for other people. It's about us working on ourselves. And I know that sounds so cliche to many people, but I know that most of the people in the chat understand it, between this community and your community that have been in this for a while. Like, if you don't think, if you want to get dejected by the fact that your coworker or your husband still isn't awake and let that cloud your judgment about society as a whole, you're judging hundreds of millions of people based on one or two or maybe 20 in your office people, and you're not seeing how much growth you've probably had. Like, think about all the stuff we've learned just as a group over the last 3 years. Forget, let alone over the last 5, 6, 7, 10. Look at how much we've learned. Look at the people sitting here discussing, analyzing film and breaking down if it's a false flag or not. 90% of the country didn't know what a false flag was 3 years ago. 90% of the country didn't know what Five Eyes was a year ago, and it's on the news. And that's just on the kind of the news and intel side. But just, we've all learned so much. And I feel like your point is so important because the journey, whether we like it or not, is individual. And that's all you can control. You don't have to like things going on about you, but if you're letting it drag you down, if you're learning all this stuff and you're letting it, the fact that the people aren't around you, aren't maybe paying attention, beat you up, here's the thing: what can you do about it? So it is an individual journey. And I say it all the time, Theresa. I full on believe, Mark and I were sitting in a diner the other day. We had this exact conversation, which is, it's not so, we actually, I fully believe that we let a lot of the optics of what's happening right in front of our faces, I mean, in the same room, dictate the way we view what's happening in the world, the same way we're letting the news dictate the optics. And what I mean by that is, you've had 3 years of everyone getting pummeled with psychological warfare, right? Biden being exposed, the deep state, the not the least of which, the crimes against children and humanity at the top of the list being exposed. And I don't mean just amongst us, it's out in the mainstream. And obviously all the chaos and all the stuff that surrounds this operation. And you can't expect the people that we've been telling all this stuff to come right back to us. That's not human nature. People don't like being wrong. But I fully believe in my heart of hearts that a lot of this stuff, and I don't mean the details of it, I don't mean that we're in a continuity government and Biden's wearing a mask. I don't mean that stuff. I mean the COVID crime, the election fraud, all these different things that if you stood in a room and you could actually break down that fear that everybody has, everyone's got fear on both sides, if you want to. I don't like calling sides, but whether you're pro us or anti us, on both sides, everyone knows they've been lied to. Everyone knows something's wrong. People are seeing that things are not what they see, or the way they see it. And I fully believe that when you sit in a room in most public places, that 7, 8 out of 10 people, if you could actually break down that wall first, would agree with a lot of what we talk about, would are not happy about the government, are not happy with the way society is functioning. But we're coming out of a period of time, especially over the last, the 2010s, the 2010, 2008, the Obama years forward to 2020, where all of the Western world was beaten into submission, where you couldn't talk about anything. And they made everything into politics, right? Everything. To this point, it still triggers me. People sit down, I start talking about, transgenderism in school, and somebody says, well, we're talking politics. I'm like, that's not politics. That's humanity. COVID isn't politics. It's genocide. It's that genocide isn't humanity. And so they've got us to this point. They got for so many years to this point where you weren't allowed to talk about anything, that I really think that we as a movement sometimes really underestimate the people we're surrounded with, because I think that they deep down know things are wrong, but they're not quite ready to talk about it yet because there's been so much chaos. What do you think about that?
I also think they're afraid. They maybe want to live in denial, and it just can't be this crazy, right? And that brings up my greatest concern, and that is after the EBS EAS happens, which is, I think, almost been scheduled. It's very big things are happening. Let's put it that way. Oh yeah, it's there's a lot going on right now, folks. That's all I'm gonna say. And when we get to the other side, who's going to be at risk, and who's at risk already? So we know that there's an epidemic of suicide in the military. There's an epidemic of, I just found out, suicide in the high schools. They're keeping it quiet, but it's happening. Why? Now, when we get to the other side, it's going to be the Catholics who did not know that their Pope was a monster who killed children, and their dollars went there. That they believe in life. They don't believe in abortion. And yet, when they find that out, that will be almost too hard to overcome and to live with. And that's why we're trying to get ready so fast. We're trying, and thank God that Mark helped me a year ago or so get that website up and ready so that people could actually use it as a lifeline. They can go there, call us for help.live, call us number 4 help.live. That you go there and it's got a message where I talk you into living. And even for people who are discouraged, that message will still help you. You could go there every day. Breathing exercises, how to stop a panic attack, free music that is recorded at 50 and 60 beats per minute, which lowers the heart rate and the blood pressure and causes the brain to go into theta state, which is the deepest possible state of peace you could have. And so it has to be successful in stopping a panic attack in less than 5 minutes because you start breathing. All right. Yeah.
The site saved 2 people 20 minutes after it went online.
Yeah. I mean, that fast. And we have saved a whole lot of people, and people have let us know that they had those thoughts and that website helped them. And then you've got the Brits who did not know that their queen was a monster. And the rest, a lot of the royals, and she's beloved, dearly beloved by them, especially the older people. And I just hurt for them. And then you've got the elderly in general who live by the 6 o'clock news and who believed it because it was on the news. I always remember them saying, well, it was on the news. It was on the news. So it has to be true because it was on the news, right, Mark?
That guy said it. He would, if it's on TV, it must be true.
And Mark's in the back of the camera going, no, people.
And it's such an important point. And for those of you that don't know, Mark here, for anybody who might be coming over from Theresa's platform, Mark here has over 40 years of experience here in New York at Channel 7 Eyewitness News, our ABC affiliate here, which has always been traditionally the number 1 network channel here. And he's over 40 plus years of experience in production. So he's been on the ground seeing it. He's seen it firsthand, speaks about it a lot. That's why I'm so blessed to have him as part of this group here. Because when we do all these different things, analyzing what's going on in the news, not only does he have an incredible perspective on life and the movement, but he's got the experience to back it up and the perspective on that. And Theresa, you bring up a really good point, because that actually ties in perfectly with what I was just talking about. Obviously, I'm very open about the fact that I deal with anxiety and depression. I have for quite a long time. I've changed everything up the last few years and working on a whole lot of different. I've learned so much that wasn't taught to me. I myself, people want to come at me, or some people maybe in my life that think I'm trying to preach about health and everything. I'm the first one to say, like, listen, if I'm talking about the COVID vaccines and everything else, I'm talking as somebody that for 10 years they got me. They got me with the SSRIs and lithium and 9 other drugs in the book to deal with a problem that had nothing to do with that, and that there's a million other ways to deal with it that actually do work, that are way more healthy, and that'll put you in a better mindset, a better physical mindset. I spent 10 years dealing with depression and anxiety and not knowing that there was a physical aspect to it through toxicity and mercury and everything else. So I'm very open about that, because to me, it's one of the great tragedies of everything happening in the world right now, is everything that you just talked about, which is the number of people. You nailed it. Childhood suicide. I believe it's either the number 1 or number 2 cause of death, in kids 16 to 24 right now, is suicide.
Yeah.
And you have suicide rates across the world are skyrocketing. In fact, to the point where last year, conveniently, our government didn't even report the statistics because they're so bad. And it all, we very often focus on the people around us here, because we have a whole separate group of people that are going through their awakening and struggling with it. But, there are, just starting with COVID. I mean, we were in bad shape already, and then COVID came along, and the isolation and the conflict and the fighting, and now we're into this next stage where it's just confusion. And to your point, I have a family relative, I won't name names, but who's well into his late 70s, and said to somebody in my family the other day, he's a mainstream media news watcher. He has no idea what's going on. And he's finally come to the conclusion. He's like, we're at war, aren't we? This is like a psychological war. And he's very sad. He's very depressed. He said, I don't know what to do. Everything's so horrible in the world. It's like there's no end. And at the same time, he's got a long-term partner, a woman he's been with for 40 years. And he goes, I don't know what happened to her. She's so angry, and she went the other way. She's like, and I don't even know who she is anymore. And we see so much of that happening, where there's households divided, and there's people who are awake and aren't awake. And my point is, I going back to what I said a minute ago, where I think there's more people seeing things. When we talk about awakening, right? We don't talk about everybody in the world is going to know Q is real and Joe Biden's wearing a mask like that. That'll come in due time. When we talk about awakening, when you talk about getting people ready and getting society to a point for the D class and the EBS and all the things that come with it, we're talking about what I mean with my relative, where somebody in their 70s that is a mainstream watcher, there's at least that break in the matrix that they at least understand something is wrong. And once they understand something is wrong, then they're ready to look for new information. But with that, it comes a period of of depression, of anxiety, of unrest. There's simply just no way to go through learning that so much of what you've lived is a lie without struggling. So I think that's such an important point you make. And I remember seeing this on your show. I'm very honored and happy to be able to share this on a live stream, because I think you're doing something and talking about something that, as somebody who's affected by it directly myself, it frankly, and I want to keep it positive, but it makes me sick that if you say to yourself, forget mainstream media, they're not even talking about it, but even some of the alternative media, some of the big names that we see that are on, I don't mean in a movement, I mean alternative media platforms, new news, who's talking about this? You're lucky if you get a 2-minute segment every couple of weeks that talks about depression and suicide in this country. It's just not talked about enough. And when you think about a country that's 40% of the people are on antidepressants, what does that tell you?
Well, and one of the things that we've neglected, and I always say that we've caused it because we've allowed it to happen. The media has pushed it. The government has pushed it. This generation of people that we've brought about who, you have to get picked for the team. Everybody gets a trophy. And, if you want your poster child for that, you had it in your open for the news last week. Our girl from the Hillary loss, sitting there on her knees screaming. And as bad as a lot of people who don't get it, as bad as a lot of people who have been brainwashed by the media, you've got this whole other group of people who are so self-entitled, and the yellers and the screamers, the one who don't believe that you can just have a civil conversation, agree to disagree. They figure that if they yell the loudest, they're going to be the winners of the argument. And those people are going to have a real hard time grasping this, accepting it, and moving forward. And that's a large group of young people.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
On both ends. And Theresa, you've been, on this point, you've been, your focus is on, I know you do a lot with regards to the humanitarian side of things, the RV, those, but you bring such a balanced message, because obviously you can see the Q over your right shoulder there. So you certainly know what's going on in the world with everything on kind of the intel operation side of things. But I really loved, I think it was one of the first shows I watched. I remember you came on and you said, you pretty much said, look, these are the people that I watch and I like what they're saying. You didn't say, watch them, they're right, I'm right, don't listen to these other people. You keep such a balanced message. And I guess my question is, talk a little bit about our role in all of this. And along the lines, and again, I'm going somewhere with this. I'm not going off topic. Going along the lines of what we're discussing with the struggle people are going to have and are having, right? As they learn. And again, you mentioned just a few things: the Royals, the church. We all have things. I know Marcus talked about it. He jokes, but he's like, I don't like to tell people where I used to work because it's for a news source, right? I used to do things in real estate I don't want to talk about because it's in the old world. People who are in medicine, we're all, there's no way to get through this entire process without reevaluating some aspect of your life and saying, that was, if you went, I used to go to Disney World a lot. Do I like telling people in the movement that now? No, because now we know what Disney World is. We all have these things together. And talk a little bit about our role in, the Q drop. It says, comfort those around you. And I said it last night that comfort those around you doesn't necessarily mean the people sitting in the same room as you. Comfort those around you as a movement means absorb all this information. They sent us through the door first, right? It's like a bunch of firefighters. Like, somebody's got to walk through that door first into the fire. And that's what this movement is. It's they sent a whole group in first so that they could go into that fire first, figure it out, and then we could be there to help everyone else through. And I know you talk so much about that, about our role as humanitarians, not just in this new world, these new things we're going to be doing, but in this transition period about, and I know so many people in it are getting frustrated because they're waiting for that moment. But if you don't see it coming, it's coming. In fact, what we're doing right now is an example of it. Whereas you're somebody that was helping me a month ago. And now I'm here with Mark doing this. And after this, there's going to be people from our communities that are going to start their own podcasts or their own Patriot groups or their own support groups or a Facebook group or whatever it is. And that's the design of it. So talk a little bit about the importance of frankly, all of us getting through this together and supporting each other in these communities, so that as our husbands and wives and brothers and stuff drop out of that matrix, that we're there to be able to help them, that we have to frankly get our what together so that we can help them.
It's all a choice. But if you understand how big this is, then it helps you make the choice that you were chosen by God to be at this time in history for a reason. You have something within you that the rest of us need. And if you only focus on yourself or on the RV or on the Nisara and getting what you need, and some people are really sick, I understand that, but even when you are sick, and believe me, I was bedridden for 5 months at a time twice, almost died 3 times. I get that, where it was even hard to even whisper. So I understand, but if you can focus on someone else, if you even can do anything, a smile, a kind word, a phone call, and take your focus off yourself, your body will actually respond and you'll feel better, right? And so but I don't know that people really understand their importance in this thing. It's not the podcasters, it's you. It's the humanity. It's us as a community. We can't do this alone. It has to be all of us together. And that's a lot what they've been waiting for, is for us to come out of the cabal brainwashing. We don't realize how much we are still brainwashed, where we have been trained to live in isolation. So we have to come back together and relearn what family is, because we lost our families. So we don't know what family is anymore. But we can find a tribe, we can find a group of people, like-minded people, and begin to meet their needs as we hear their hearts, so we hear their cries, and then meet their needs. We become community once again. And we have to outlive the cabal indoctrination to be angry all the time and distrusting and accusatory and judging people. If you judge, you will also be judged in the way you judge. That is a spiritual law. It's a fact. It'll happen to you. So I check myself. If I think a thought of judgment towards someone, I cancel that thought and I replace it with the blessing, because I don't want to be judged. I've been judged enough. I don't need any more. And so I'll immediately reverse it. And I do spiritual maintenance. Before I go to sleep at night, I do that cleansing, and I forgive people, and I send them a blessing. It doesn't matter what they did to me. I'm going to do that because I'm going to be a better person. And as you can see, I don't have any bitterness. I don't carry grudges. I get hurt, but I move on. Right? And then I become a better person because of that hurdle that I had to go through. You actually get a promotion based off the thing you just conquered, right? If you can endure the contradiction of your life and your environment, you can have the prize. That's how it works. You have to endure the contradiction, and look at how many contradictions we've had to endure. Oh, it's coming, and it was coming. And that's what I want to explain to people. Don't be angry with the messengers because they said it was coming, because it was. I have firsthand knowledge of it. And Trump is one of the most frustrated of all people, because he wanted it for us. He wanted this over with. My advisor even said he's frustrated because he didn't think it would take this long. And he dearly loves the people. And his project list is veterans, disabled veterans, all the military, farmers, the Native Americans, First Nations people. Those are his, projects. And then he has a program set up through NASARA that will help everyone. All right. And so if we can just be content in the knowledge that the plan is way beyond anything we could ever ask or think. And so because it's coming, it is guaranteed, it's already been set, it's been signed, it's being delivered now. If we can be content with that and begin to think elsewhere, think of those around us, become our brother's keeper in a time when the wounded are laying on the battlefield of this war, literally. And the veterans, I wasn't even realizing how intense their suffering will be. Some of them have already awakened, and they're having trouble because they realize they killed people and they thought it was for our country, and it was not. It was the cabal to pad their pockets. And the memories that they have are hard enough being a patriot, but then you put that mix in there and it puts it way over the edge. And so what I said to one of our vets on our show is the Bible says that whatever you intended, the intention of your heart is what you will be judged by God. And the intention of their hearts was patriotism. And so all that false guilt, that heavy weight of that false guilt and shame gets taken off immediately. And that is the message we must memorize right now. Write it down so that you have it to give the veterans around you. All I did was tell the vet that principle, and it immediately fell off him. Right immediately. And he said it changed his life. And so look how important it is. Your job, God chose you because he trusted you and he believed that you would be one of those that would wake up to the mission, to the pain of those around you, not just yourself. In fact, all of your history, I know that you went through untold agony in your life. And you wonder why me? Why did I have to go through all of that? And you think it's a detriment, but it wasn't. It's a badge of honor that qualifies you to be one of the spiritual nurses, the doctors, the caretakers, the spiritual papas and mamas who will nurture and enfold these weak ones in your arms.
Now, while you're on that topic, delve a little deeper into how important it is to self-forgive.
Yeah, there you go. If you can't forgive yourself, then you can't forgive those around you either, because that unforgiveness towards yourself is judgment again. So if judgment is in there at all for you, it's also in there for everyone around you. Or you'll be just as hard on them as you're hard on yourself. And so can I step in and stand in the gap for you right now and give you permission to let it go? God wants you to let it go. He doesn't want you to keep it. Seriously, he came to set you free from it, from the bondage. That's the message that God has for people. I came to set you free. And so you have a choice. You can let it go. You can forgive yourself. I see a lot of tears. I feel it. See, I have these spiritual antennas. I can almost see things that are in my spirit. So I see the tears flowing down. You were taught to blame yourself when you were a child. You were taught that you were to blame. You were not. Children are not to blame. It's not your fault what happened to you. It's not your fault. Let it go.
So true.
Let it run off so that you can go into the future, into your highest destiny. It's now. All of us, we have a corporate destiny that's being unveiled and launched right now, this year, 2024. Your destiny is waiting for you. And it is going to be so good because you won't have to work a job you hate. That's what they're doing for you. They're preparing a way that no one's going to suffer financially anymore. And so you're going to be able to do what you love, and you won't have to work as many hours. They want to cut the work day shorter, the work week shorter. And so it's just going to be the most wonderful world. And it was prepared a long time ago. They've been working on this way longer than you could imagine. And so here it is. And I believe all of heaven is watching and involved. Angelic armies are involved in this. Right? I've seen angels. All right. I've interacted with angels. I know that they're there. And I mean, you can just sense that there is no way this whole thing could have happened if there wasn't a higher power involved, that God was involved. And even President Trump says so. We could not have done this. All this gematria and all these coincidences, it's not possible. It is not possible except for God. And I'm not even a religious person. I believe in God, but I'm not into religion. I'm into relationship with God, intimacy with God.
Also, go
ahead, Mark.
A little bit on frequency healing.
Yes.
Especially in regard to music.
Yeah. And I don't know the frequencies of my music, but I had a wonderful man, I believe his name is Brian, on Chance's Chat Chance, I think it's called. And he said to me, because, my flutes are not in the right intonation. I can change the metal flutes. I can adjust them, and I have. But the wooden flutes are set. I can't change that. And I thought, I got to get all new flutes now. And he said, no, you don't. Because your frequency changes the flute. When you blow through it, your frequency is what comes through. And I was like, yes. Oh, wow. I never would have seen that on my own. And I am so forever grateful by that remark that he made. And then also, I felt like God spoke to me at one point a couple years ago when frequency and that correct intonation started to come on the scene through Michael Terrell. God said to me, when I blow through you, it changes the frequency. And because people are healed right during my concerts. And I thought, well, how can they be healed if I'm not in the right intonation? And that's why. Is because it's the faith, the intention, and the presence of God that I ask God to play through me. I do, and he does. And so then people are healed.
And so much of what's happening right now, of everything you're saying, so many of us know to be true. But I want to use myself again. I'll use myself as an example. Just 4 years ago, I talked about this a lot. I was dating somebody who was very spiritually grounded, understood a lot of this stuff, understood past lives, frequency, all this other stuff. And I'll be the first one to admit, I didn't buy most of it, and I was vocal about it. And man, did I get a crash course over the last 4 years through my own health journey and all this. And this is I say that because I try to remind everybody, Theresa, and Mark knows this. I try to continue, and it might be repetitive for some people, but deal with it. It's got to be repeated. That there's so much of this stuff that we can't quantify or prove at this moment. There's many that we can by using deductive logic, but yes, there's not a website we can go to and look up all the new stuff. There's not necessarily exact proof of everything we're talking about, but there's plenty of, and that's why we tie the Q drops in. That's why we look at the news. That's why I was talking about this last night. So many people go around and throw about that there's 6,000 patents that are suppressed. Well, there is, and you can actually look that up yourself. It's in the Department of Defense website. They don't tell you what they are, But yes, there's 5,000. Look this morning, not 5,915 patents suppressed under national security. There's what you're talking about, frequency, and maybe for some people that are still on the fence about that kind of stuff, go look up Royal Rife and the Rife machine from back in the 20s, I believe, or was it the 18th, whatever it was, 100 years ago. An entire book of frequencies that could heal everything in the body and what happened to him. And, then things you're talking about, such as your own frequency and your aura, however you'd like to refer to it. Do some basic reading about quantum physics. That stuff is all real, and you tie it all together, the quantum financial system, Trump saying we're doing a quantum leap, all these different things. And I spoke about this last night. I speak very often about my own experience with the energy enhancement system, the EE system. I always point to that, not because it's going to work for every person, because every body is different. But I point to that because that is military grade technology. That is a system that this woman invented in 1978. She could only sell it to the elites in 1996. And now, in the last year and a half, there's 300 centers, 300 individual humanitarians that have stepped up to the plate all over the world. You tell me any other franchise, whatever you want to call it, in the world that's opened 300 locations in a year. I mean, McDonald's barely does that at their best. Walmart doesn't even do that. Yet this thing that's been flying under the radar that no one's talking about besides the truth, which is scalar wave, torsion field, healing technology that stimulates the body to heal itself, that is essentially invented by somebody whose two parents were NASA physicists, who walks around with security because think about so who went to her and said, you're safe to release this stuff now? How did she know to go out last year in May and go ahead and tell the world on YouTube, by the way, without getting censored, that this whole new thing was happening and where it came from? So I say that because that is what I kind of went through when I started researching that. I'm like, oh, this stuff's no. Then you research it, you look, you hear the story, you see, you connect that with what's going on in the world, and there's your Nasara proof. There's, that's why when I know you've said it before, and I've said it before, we're all waiting for this big thing, but there are things happening right now. And then you connect that to like what you said about Trump, all these things that you're talking about with Trump. Go and look at his Agenda 47, where he talks about everything he's going to do. And everything he says, by the way, go watch it. He says day one, on day one, we're going to close the border. On day one, we're going to help the vets. Most of the stuff he said couldn't be done in 8 years under a normal presidency. How do you think he's going to do that all on day one? Because it's already done. Because it's already done and ready to go.
Yeah.
The school programs, the veterans programs, the humanitarian aid, the military aid, something, our true history, books, communications, all of it. Is it going to roll out in a day? No. Is it going to take 10 years? No. He's got, that's why the man stands up there and put these videos out for the world, telling you exactly what Theresa's telling you right now. But I think very often, Theresa, we all get so caught up into this, the downtime of this movie that we're watching, that we get frustrated and we say, and we've been so beaten down by the way, all the brainwashing in our media, that we just find it impossible to believe that this whole thing could boomerang in our favor.
Yeah, and the thing is that all the time that everyone says, "Oh, nothing's happening," or "Nothing happened at the Super Bowl," or wherever, they have no clue what really happened behind the scenes. And I get to hear, snippets of it after the fact. They never tell us beforehand, but after the fact, we get to hear, who got arrested and how many got arrested and what the truth was about lots of things. And so maybe that's partly why I have not wavered in the last 5 years, and I don't get discouraged or impatient, because I hear the play-by-play and it's very exciting, that the fact that we are already a restored republic, it switched in June, and and Texas is gold backed, and where the White House is going to be, the new one, and all these juicy details. It's very exciting, and there's always something happening, much happening, and I have said before that I know all the different teams that are working in this thing, and they often work overnight, all night long, if they're on the verge of something and they want to push it through, and they keep saying, for the people, because they're hurting. I hear it all the time. That's their focus. So they work all night long. And so you don't want to be angry with people who are doing their very best. It's a very complicated thing that if people could hear the details, they would be shocked. There's no button to push, right?
Exactly.
So
And that's so important. I've seen a couple people in the chat just now, and it just happened. It's perfect timing because somebody asked, "Well, why the delay?"
there is no
And
delay.
that's a fair and logical question. It is.
Yeah, there's no delay. It's just what he calls it is a slow rollout. And the way I picture it is it's this old ancient machine. It's a moving machine, like it's like a truck, like a big truck, but it's so ancient because it was discarded and it rusted, and they're trying to get it moving, and it began to move when Trump got in office, but it's like in such slow motion you couldn't even see the movement, and now they've actually got it moving, but it's still slow. And I believe it's perfect timing because of the fact that all of these people groups, I haven't even named all the people at risk. When we get to the other side, after the EAS, after the 12 days of disclosure, the suicides start to happen. It's going to be everywhere, all around you. No one will be untouched by someone who they didn't lose. And then you're going to go, oh, that's why that machine had to go that slow, because it's like an algorithm that has to figure in the lives of the people that we love, your children, your uncles, your aunts, your friends' children, all of these people. You don't want mass funerals to happen because you wanted it to go too fast. I do want it to happen, and it is going to happen. I can't say anything, but
Of course.
anyway.
But Tressy, I think that's it's such an important point. It really is, because I say this, a simple answer I give is, what is taking so long? I know we tend to have a little bit of an older audience. So how many people in this audience have ever planned a wedding?
Yeah.
For 6 months or a year? Now try planning a wedding for a couple billion people and mixing in military, financial services, health, pharmaceuticals, laws, constitutions. I mean, the scale of this, for the things that we all talk about, that we kind of sometimes just throw out there and talk about, free energy and med beds. Each one of those things on its own could be years and years and years in the making. And I agree that's the logistics side of it. And yeah, all the things that we're all going through. Again, I'm going to speak for myself and not for everybody else. Like, I don't feel anxious and depressed because of Nasara not coming. Q says those who know don't sleep. And that's not those who are waiting for Nasara don't sleep. It's those who don't sleep because when you find out how horrible things are, you don't sleep.
Yeah.
So just imagine what myself and many other people are dealing with because of the last 3 or 4 years. Imagine that all happening, if that happened in 2016 in a week to all society. It's not possible. I say it all the time. The hardest part about this is not the logistics. The hardest part about this is they had this plan, and like I said, you're talking about military. Once they get the right people under control, They could have executed the logistics and taken out the people in a fairly short period of time. The question is, how do you tell the entire world that they've been lied to for their entire lives without losing hundreds of millions of people?
And
It's
then,
not an easy thing to do.
they keep telling us that those that you thought were good were not, and those that the opposite. And I just found out about 2 people that are about to get arrested, and it is going to shock the truther community. It is going to be very, very hard on them because they put their faith in them. They trusted them. They loved them. Many, many people loved them. And when they find out what they were really seeing wasn't real, I mean, I'm talking, they're not clones or anything. Just, they were not who they said they were. And so, yeah, you don't want to go too fast because you'll find out later. When you get there, you'll go, oh wow, this is what she was trying to save us from. This is what she was trying to hold us steady. We don't want to rush into pain, and so there's glorious good coming, but also hard things. We're not as awake as we think we are.
That's right. And I'm glad you brought that up, Theresa, because it's been such a big topic recently, the infiltration into different channels. And it kind of piggybacks on what we said at the beginning of the show. I've been trying to hammer this home. We don't know what we don't know, which is why I keep saying stay where Mark's sitting, stay in the middle, right? Don't go to one side or the other. That's exactly. And we don't know the roles that everybody are playing. And again, like we said at the beginning of the show, if I say it all the time, I don't want people to go in my chat and be like, somebody says this is happening, and they go, well, Dave said this. No, that's wrong. That shouldn't be your answer. Shouldn't be because I said so. Your answer should be because I said so. You went online, you researched it, you realized I wasn't talking crap, and you came back and said, no, here it is. I don't want anybody to believe me. Make me prove myself. Because at the end of the day, between like Tressy said, your own discernment, your own feeling of the person on the screen, and then what you read, you'll be able to realize that this person is being genuine. But don't go too far against or for anybody because we just don't know. And I know you and I have spoken about this extensively, Theresa. You know for a fact, and I'd like you to talk about this just a little bit, that absolutely the same way there are lower level black hat operatives, infiltrators, whatever you want to call them, that are still floating around trying to cause trouble, there are also white hats pulling the strings of what happens. And if you think that a military helicopter is going to land on my lawn to tell me what to do, that's not how it would work, right? It would happen through covert means. If I was being told to put out a narrative for people, I wouldn't know I'm doing it. I would just be directed. Something would push me towards the information to put out there. It's not like you get a knock on the door all the time. And so when you see these things happening, very often some of these people don't even know they're being smoked out. They're being put into the spotlight. We don't know. But we have to stay grounded. And that's why we're so, Mark and I especially, and I know you feel the same way, are so firm on not getting caught up in the show with some of these side narratives that are out there with different fights. And we don't want to get wrapped up in that stuff because we just don't know. We don't know what we don't know.
Right. And so that's why I encourage people not to judge. And you have a saying that you keep saying that's so much like my saying that I say, and this is what I have lived my life by, and that is, he that thinks he knows anything knows nothing yet as he ought to know. And if you have that headset, you can always keep an open mind that can be blown with wonder at any time. And so then my new phrase is, what if? So if you have an open mind, you can say, what if they're not wrong? What if this is a psyop? What if this is a sting operation? What if it's so complex that I couldn't possibly know? And if I have a strong opinion, I'm going to be embarrassed later. So what if you listen to different people and you listen to your heart and weigh everything and you hold everything with an open hand? You can put some what ifs in there and it won't hurt anything. You don't take a risk when you have a what if, but if you go like this, they're wrong, and you don't know what happened behind the scenes that caused the whole thing, then how can you? How can you know? You cannot know. We don't know what the truth is about many things. And so holding it open is going to cause us to be much better people in the new world.
So well said. So well said. Mark, anything you want to add to that? I know
Yeah,
we've
well,
spoken about that so much.
well, I mean, in regard to that, we've been through so much in the past couple of weeks, and quelling the people out there. It's like we discussed at the beginning of the show about the judgment-free zone. You can't rush to judgment. You can't assume. We all know what happens when you assume. And we have to get out of that mindset. We have to get away from taking a little bit here and a little bit there and turning it into the headline. Okay? I spent more than half my life watching that happen, and it's pointless. It's pointless. You draw a lot of people in, you
Yeah.
get a lot of attention with it,
Yeah.
but you're not putting the truth out there. And
Yeah.
you're not giving, more importantly, you're not giving the truth to get in here.
I tell my people, do not choose sides. Every time someone attacks me, I come right back because I did a show called First Aid Kit for the Patriots. And I did it before I got attacked by anybody. And I, as soon as I got attacked, I was trying to just keep the truth going, but nobody wanted to hear. They're like, shut up, and I'm like, I don't know what to do. So I go, okay, guys, here's the first aid kit. Follow that. I got to go away for a while. So, but you don't want to choose sides, no matter who it happens to and how it looks. You don't have to choose a side. You just leave it. Just be quiet and love. That's all.
Now, speaking of first aid kit for the Patriots, something very near and dear to your heart that we put a decent amount of time into, and you wanted to get out there. Why don't you explain to the people what a Destiny song is?
Okay, so when I toured the world, I did healing concerts, and I did it in a very unusual way. It was a unique thing where, with all my 13 flutes, I have them on a really beautiful stand, and I would have it at the front of the people, and I would never be on stage. I am up close and personal with the audience, and I would play each one so they could get a little taste, and I'd say, pick the one that moves your heart. And they would do that. And then when I was done, I would have a seat of honor at the front. And I would invite the people to sit in the chair and tell me which flute they wanted me to play. And after I played it, I would kneel down and I would take their hand and I would sing a song about who they were. And it was a prophetic thing, but it was also became like, I could teach it actually, because if the person was walking up to the chair, I already knew what flute they were going to pick just by looking at them and watching them. And then I would play it. And as I was playing it, God said to me, I want you to pay attention to what comes through you every time you play that flute. What is the interpretation? And I did. And I went, oh, so the bass flute is chosen by people who've had deep pain. It's a deep flute. That's what the frequency was, and that's what the healing was. And so I got to be like a specialist and an expert, but I could not stop playing because can you imagine once the first person got transformed right in front of everybody and the whole audience that knew them knew that I was accurate, then the people would get up out of their seats all over the world, rush behind the chair and sit cross-legged all the way out the door or stand for 5 hours. And my pianist, her hands would be shaking and she'd say, I've got to stop. And I realized I was abusing them, but I was also abusing my adrenal glands. But as a mama heart, I could not stop. If that person had already waited 4 hours, how could I stop? One time I did in Paris, and the lady wailed out loud. And I thought, okay, I had got to change something. So being on the road by myself, I burned out very badly. And so I came off the road and began to do Destiny songs by mail. They would send me their picture. I would study their name, and I would pray, and I would get this song for them. I would actually record it professionally and send it out. And I did hundreds and hundreds of songs for people all over the world. I think I probably did 50 songs for one German family who had a senior center and a bunch of children and grandchildren. And I was even like the spiritual mama of the babies. I would do a song before the baby was born. And then they would say the baby is exactly as you said. And then I did one for the president. He was the mayor of Seoul, South Korea. And I told him he was going to become the president. And they said he was not qualified. And then a year later, he became the president of South Korea, you know? And so I thought, ever since I came on the scene in, August or something, my whole desire was every week, what can I do to comfort the people this week? And I would hear, okay, let's do this. Okay, let's do a lie pulling party and pull out the thing that is tripping them. And so the one week I said, I'm going to do a Destiny song for the entire truther community, all the patriots. Now, what a job that was. It's like, how do I do that? Everyone's different, but we all have similar situations. And that's why we're here today. We were chosen to be at this time in history because we have certain things, characteristics about ourselves that are like the family, right? And we've all been through the same suffering. So I knew what to do. And so I began to sing it. And it has gone all over. And I would like it to go a lot further because the patriots need it right now. This is the time that it will sustain you. It will encourage you to the point that you can take another step. Right? And so
we have your Destiny song for the Patriots. And Dave?
Yeah, and what I'm going to do, guys, I'm going to play this out. It runs about 10 minutes or so, I believe. 10 minutes. I don't know, Mark, do you want to? We'll play this and then we'll come back and say our final words. But I want to remind everybody what I'm about to play. I'm going to post this as well on my Telegram channel as an individual file. So you guys will be able to just forward it or download it, do whatever you want. Tressy did a beautiful non-musical version of this for me the other day when we were on the air, and it was honestly one of the most beautiful things that's ever happened in my life. And a couple of members of my family saw it and said, not only is that beautiful and incredible, but she, without even knowing you, she nailed it. So you're an incredible person, incredible musician, and I'm glad to be able to share this with everybody. So we're going to run this now. It's going to run about 10 minutes, and then we'll be back with our final words, guys. Enjoy.
Once upon a time, the Creator thought about you and planned for you. He created you, and then He tucked you into His heart for a very long time. But He thought about you time, eons and eons and generations passed, and he thought of you, and he longed for you to come forth to life, and he waited until the time was right, and he chose you, he handpicked you to shine at this time. Oh, 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 he sent you. He sent you into a world in chaos, but he knew you would make it. He knew you would pass every test, and you did. Good job, A++. And he sent you to earth to be born, and he knew what he was doing. Even through the pain he saw you went through, he knew you would make it, 'cause he knew what he put inside you to thrive, to overcome. He knew you had a strong backbone. He knew you had a brilliant mind to figure it all out. Boot camp was brutal, as you know. Special ops always is, but he believed in you. Someone believed in you from day one, before day one, 'cause you were in him. Before he made the world, you were in him. You came from him to the world. He made you multi-talented. You were born to challenge the rules and go against the tide, and that didn't go too well with those around you. But you were born strong for a reason. Risk taker, cliff jumper, yeah. You were born to be free, born to fly, born to soar above the problems. You didn't know why you never fit in, but you forgot that you're not from here. Oh, you refused to be ordinary. You're a dreamer who refused to give up. You're a seeker of the mysteries and the secrets of the real world. Treasure hunter, teachers gifted to be able to recreate a stable foundation out of the ruins of the old system. You you can do it. You know how to do it. Creative leader, a restless adventurer with a brilliant mind that thinks outside the box. There is no box, and you know it. You know it because you see it clearly in the real world. You're a prophet, a mystic, a seer with the gift of wisdom, open-minded, deep thinker, might even be a writer, artistic, musical. You got bionic eyes that see into the invisible realms. Miracle worker, yeah. Yeah. And you were all alone during this war, but you looked around and suddenly you found yourself among friendly faces, total strangers. You found your tribe online, and it was like you knew them, like you've always known them, but you never even met them. But your spirit knows who is your kinfolk, the real deal. The real meaning of family is those who recognize you. They see you, they celebrate you, they see that big heart pumped out of your chest, and they relate to you. You're a good counselor, good people helper. You've always given more and loved deeper than most people, and you got taken advantage of it. You got taken advantage of over and over and over. But now you're wiser, and even though they taught you to believe that you didn't count, you now know that you do, just as much as anybody else. You're a peacemaker, ambassador of love, real love, the kind that endures all things. And this year is going to be the best year of your entire life.
That last line sounds a lot like something some commander-in-chief I know says very often. Very similar. That was beautiful. You have an incredible voice and incredible talent, Tressy.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I guess Theresa, let me start with you. You asked me a question that I thought was fantastic, because I think everybody that's involved in this, nobody woke up when they were 18 years old and said, when I'm this age, I want to be doing this podcasting stuff, or I want to be involved in humanitarian. It's a journey. We all ended up here through different ways. Mark and I jokingly say when all the craziness is happening, sometimes we were sitting at lunch the other day and we looked at each other and said, how the heck did we get here? And that's what a journey is, right? So, I love that you asked me that question, because if you asked me the question, you said, with your involvement in this, what would you like your lasting legacy to be? And to me, legacy is an important thing, because legacy is not ego. Legacy is not credit. Legacy is not accolades. Legacy is, what did you actually accomplish in the world? And, again, none of us got into this for the glory, because it doesn't exactly work that way. But I'd like to pose, I'd like to pose that question to you, with everything you've learned in this journey now at this point. And again, like I said, I think for all of us, the answer would have been different 3 or 4 years ago. What would you like your lasting legacy to be?
That I talked people into believing in themselves, and their lives were changed because I told them the truth and about themselves, how great their destiny is. What God thinks of you is so much bigger than what you think of yourself. And what I just sang, those are the ingredients that he would say to this truther movement. He believes in you. And I got weepy during the song, because I could see people in my tribe that it fits you so well. It fits our tribe, and it fits us all. And I could feel the heart of God saying, tell them they're doing a good job. Tell them they're doing a good job. I'm not down on them. I'm not berating them. I'm not saying you're too impatient. I'm saying you're still standing and you're still here, and you did pass. You did pass. Good job. That's what he would say to you right now. He's proud of you. That's what he would say. Just want you to know that. He knows how hard it's been and how long it's been. And that's why you were chosen, because there are very few people who could have lasted this long. But you did. Even though you're hurting, your body hurts. You have lots of problems, and financial woes and everything, you're still here. You deserve a medal. You do. You deserve a medal of honor. Give honor to whom honor is due, and it is due you.
Beautifully said. And I think you just saw a little example of why I enjoy watching your podcast so much, is because you can deliver a message like you just did. And I'm looking at the chat, and people are just blown away by it. That you're that steady voice of encouragement and beauty and spirituality when you need it, but you also know what's going on. Like I said, demonstrated by that letter over your right shoulder, that 17th letter. That's why you resonated so much with me personally. And that's why I'm glad to be able to do this with you, is because, different people need different things at different times, and you're not just somebody that understands the humanitarian, the spiritual side of this. You understand the news, the geopolitical, you get the whole spectrum. And whereas I like to think that I do, I lean more towards, I hate to call it intel, the current events side of things and how that translates. And you tend to lean a bit more towards the humanitarian side, but like I said, you get the full spectrum of it. So I that's why I love watching your show, especially when I need that dose of encouragement myself. Like I said, it's a great balance. And I just want to remind everybody again, you can find Theresa, Tressy Trek, as she's known, her show here on Rumble. You're on what, a few nights a week, 3 nights a week? Do you have an actual schedule, or
2
I forget?
nights.
I'm sorry.
It's a little bit more than 2, because we're getting a lot of interviews, and we want to take every interview opportunity we can get so we can plug the suicide prevention, callusforhelp.live, and also resuscitate the hopes and dreams of the patriots, because they're just as important, because they are heroes. I see them, and I know that they are seen by the White Hats as heroes. You know, those who are doing their best and have a right attitude of love, those they're seen. We have White Hats in our chat who watch over us, protect us, and they have said they're very proud of our people, and yours as well, because you know of what you said at the opening. I know that they're in your chat as well. They're watching over us.
Fantastic. Thank you, Theresa. And we also, again, guys, the Rumble, we'll put the link. It was on the screen. We'll put it in the description below. It'll be on my Telegram channel. Also, the mods have been dropping in the chat. So please check out Theresa's podcast, especially in these times. It's needed now more than ever. Mark, you have any final words you'd like to leave us with?
The only thing that we left out in discussing callusforhelp.live is anybody who's in need, anybody who's feeling down, depressed, suicidal, you can go to that link, get the help that you need. There are references there for call-in centers. There's music there. Everything on there is free. Everything on there is free. So it doesn't make a difference what your situation happens to be. You can go there and get the help that you need. And rather than taking things into your own hands, go get that help. More important now than ever.
And for those who would like to get in on some of my classes, like if you have had rejection from family, I taught a class on healing for family rejection. And why did I teach that class? Because I went through it myself. I lost my entire family. And then we have the one for anxiety, how to overcome anxiety. All right. And then we even have one of how to help your friends and family after we get through the EAS. All right. So we have like a gear. We have gear, survival gear to help you get ready, to train yourself to get ready to help the world after we get through. But take care of yourself too.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us tonight. I appreciate the time. And as I said, I think, it's great to step away from the hardcore news and decodes and all that stuff, a couple of times a week and bring you people like Theresa and hopefully we can do this again for sure. I'd love to continue. We'll figure out another time and stuff to have you back on, because I think it's good that we all show unity at this point and figure out how all these different channels and platforms, how we can work with each other rather than against each other. Because as I said today in one of my long-winded posts, at the end of the day, we have to remind ourselves we're all supposed to be on the same team, period.
Yeah.
So with that, Theresa, Mark, thank you guys so much. Thank you to everybody in the chat. Thank you to all the mods. Please check out Theresa's channel again, Tressy Trek on Rumble. The link is right there. And Mark and I will be back this Friday night at 8 p.m. for Channel 17 News. We'll get you caught up on everything happening in Clown World, and I'm sure there'll be a lot more happening in the next 48 hours. So thank you guys all for watching. God bless you and have a wonderful night, wonderful day, wherever you are. Take care.
Night, everybody.